Lorena, no mai haere mai, welcome to the ordinary meeting of council this morning. Apologies, I don't believe we have any. I know Eric's online, so I think we're all here. Do we have any declarations of interest this morning? Linda.
Yeah, Chairman, just there's a couple of items about consents in the cheese report. I think that I have either been involved in one and am about to be involved in. So just making everybody aware of that.
Forums, petitions, deputations, I'm not aware of any this morning. We'll move to item 5 on page 4, which is the confirmation of minutes for the meeting of council of the 17th of April.
I'll be away from the 2nd to the 23rd of July, not the 22nd to the 23rd.
We'll probably handle that in the later in the meeting.
Okay, but those
Needs to be corrected in the minutes, so can you tell me that date again?
the 2nd of July to the 23rd of July.
We may let you away on good behaviour if you would. Any alterations or changes apart from that one? If not, would somebody like to move? Moved by Jeremy, seconded by John. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Right, the second on page 13 is the extraordinary meeting of council on the 8th of May. Any changes or corrections to those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, yes, on page 14, where it refers to the Schedule 1 of the Reedy Conservation Order, the last sentence of that bullet point there says the last 2 words are incomplete, and it's not quite right. It was complete, but the way it was set out wasn't the same as in the order itself, and so it could be misinterpreted incorrectly because it wasn't set out exactly as the same way as in the order itself.
So what suggested changes do we need?
Well, I said incorrect, but it's not quite right either. It would be better to say it was not. It does not currently reflect the order correctly.
Accurately?
Accurately. Yeah, it was just the way that it was set out in our document. Which the way it could have been read, it could have been misinterpreted.
So we take out most of that sentence and show it accurately with that. So we'll see what James, you got some reading there or not?
To show it accurately, yes, that was.
Show it accurately, okay.
It's the resolution that's the important.
So everybody happy with that change? Any motion on that? Or
Just as part of your
the
confirmation.
confirmation. Okay. Any further corrections or alterations? If not, we'll move by Neville, seconded by Alistair. The amendment. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Right, we'll move to item 6, which is the adoption of committee resolutions. The first one up is the Southland Civil Defence Emergency Management Group meeting on the 3rd of May. Would you like to comment on the?
Well, I'll take it as read. Chairman, it's a fairly complete record of the discussion there.
Thank you. I'll second it, but then we'll open up for any questions. Okay, we're only adopting that. Jeremy, you have a question?
Just in one question, just in regards, obviously, on one of the resolutions states that Mayor Bell was against it. Could I just have some clarification on why? Or what it was about.
Well, extensive discussion on the recruitment process for the replacement of the emergency management manager position. Mayor Bell felt that there should be a governance presence on the interview panel and advanced that. After some discussion, it was decided that the chief executives would do the initial interview process, but the governance would have a hand further on.
Thanks for that.
We've got no further questions. On that one, so we're just, we're adopting the resolution, so it's been moved and seconded, all in favour, say aye. 6.2, strategy and policy of the 8th of May. Linda, would you like to comment on that?
Thanks, Chairman. Little to say, actually, the minutes are comprehensive. Apart from just drawing people's attention to item 10, which was the extension of the closing date for consultation for the LTP. And if I could be so bold as to say thank you to the many submitters who contributed to the process thus far, and commend them on their preparation and the efforts that they went to. Apart from that, I'll move that those minutes. Thanks.
Linda, seconded by Phil. Any questions? Doesn't appear to be. I will put the resolution. If you will say, aye. Right, we will now move to 6.3, Regional Services Committee of the 8th, on page 28. Peter, would you like to comment on the meeting?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it was a pretty long and involved meeting, but I suppose the point of note was the predator-free Rekiura team came in and gave us a full presentation on their work, just putting that out. So I'll take any questions or anything like that if anyone's willing to say anything, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Paul.
Just like a correction, if possible, relating to page 29, where I queried the specific location on the overburn where the clearing was taking place. It wasn't the location, it was, I queried whether the contractor or we had used the overburden and whether it was discounted within the price if the contractor used it. It was overburden, not overburn.
No, so it should be overburden, not overburden.
Correct. Overburden, not overburn.
Secret location, I don't know.
Oh no, I did get a response from Randall and his team, but it is a query that I just queried whether that if the contractor used the overburden, it would get a discounted rate for the works done.
I'm sure that's a question that can come back.
Yeah.
It has been answered, but it just needed to be written right.
And look, I missed most of that meeting because I was attending Derek Angus's funeral, who had been a long time MP and a councillor here. So it was Derek and I both represented council at that meeting.
I'm happy to move
Yep.
Maybe clarify that. This is the work that was done underneath the key bridge on the Narara. So that would help to clarify it so everybody knew where it was.
So we had Key Bridge.
That's right.
Everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved. A seconder. Morris. Moved and seconded. I will put the resolution. All in favour, say aye.
Excuse me, we need to go back to the confirmation of the ordinary meeting of council minutes. Councillor McPhail moved they be adopted, but he actually wasn't present at the
Oh,
meeting.
okay, right.
Realised it was something
It's usually me.
Sorry, my mistake.
Neville's happy to move. You can still second, or we've got a second of that.
Yes.
We need to vote.
We'll go to 6.4, the Regulatory Committee meeting. Morris, would you like to? No, it's Neville. Neville, would you like to comment?
Chairman, just note that we're into winter grazing time, and there should be a comms program out there we can put in the forums what the rules are. There we go.
Thank you. Any questions for Neville on that meeting? If not, we've got a mover. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Peter. All in favour of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to the finance and performance meeting of the 23rd of May.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, well, this is a relatively straightforward meeting. We had some items in excluded that we'll consider a little bit later. But otherwise, it's a straightforward meeting. I'd like to move that we adopt that.
Second.
Moved by Morris, seconded by Lindell. No questions or discussion. I will put the resolution. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Notification of extraordinary emergency business provision. A supplementary.
Yes.
So we have a supplementary report, which is the submission on the climate change commission. Do we deal with that now or do we do it later?
Later, you just need a resolution to include it in the agenda.
Happy to move that, Chairman.
Seconds.
Moved by Jeremy, seconded by Lindell, that it's included in the agenda. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Right, we will move to questions. Councillor Cook, you have a couple of questions this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The first one was around Environment Southland and its presence in Fiordland. Having sat through Plan Change 5 and listened to the other presentations that have come before the council regarding Environment Southland's responsibilities in Fiordland, my question is about whether we actually have the resources or we're committing the resources to do the work that's required of us. We've got the recreational boaters coming in great numbers, but we're not over there enough to reach it. Commercial surface activities, which are subject to consents. How much work are we putting into actually checking that the people are complying with those? We're managing moorings, checking and approving. There's rules around the disturbance of marine life and radio communications over in Fiordland are much better than they used to be, which is part of our responsibility. But I see we do have a boat, which is quite a nice vessel, but it's not suitable for being over there for more than some day trips. Thinking that in the future we should be partnering with other agencies who also have responsibilities in Fiordland to have a vessel which is suitable, livable, to actually do the work that's required.
Thank you. I think we might have somebody coming forward to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. Bruce and I will take the so the first part of the answer to your question is relating to the plan change and also to the ongoing work that's underway in terms of the coastal plan. So both of those things will trigger additional works for the council in terms of monitoring and consenting requirements. But the coastal plan still to be finalised, whilst Plan Change 5 so we see with the Minister now for sign-off. But Bruce might be able to talk a little more about the resourcing and other.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Cook raises an issue that obviously we're conscious of at staff level. It's a large area and it's a remote area to access. The issue about the adequacy of our presence is something that has been discussed quite extensively with the Marine Guardians. And I noticed that Rebecca had spoken to you recently in May. Presumably there was some dialogue at that stage. What we've sought to do is try and work out smart ways to deal with our resourcing envelope that we have to maximise the presence to the extent we can. We've developed, and I'm taking a little credit for this, it was led through Catherine and the Biosecurity Biodiversity team, a compliance strategy with Fiordland Marine Guardians, which we can circulate to you following this meeting. That's about working smart ways with the organisations that are involved in the Marine Guardians to maximise our presence to the extent that we realistically can within our resourcing envelope. We also have 3 times a year cross-department visit, which usually is coordinated by Lyndon as Harbour Master, to get different arms of our organisation in the area regularly. We do have some good rapport going with the Marine Guardians, and it's a meeting that the staff make a strong effort to support, and they have been very useful for us in terms of highlighting issues for our attention. It's always going to be a challenge for us to have the right people in the right place at the right time in an area of that size, but we're looking to look at smart ways to do that. And obviously, we also need to be receptive to future opportunities for remote monitoring and things like that, which are improving all the time.
Thanks, Bruce. Paul, you've got a
Thank you, Bruce. It's a very valid question. We've raised this before regarding a vessel over there that was originally intended to be a multi-agency vessel. I don't think we funded it all at the moment, other than using it for, they charge us for using it. It would be good to look at that through the coastal plan. We do get a lot of help from that vessel and the agency that operates it. And it would be good to share the load a little with that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, and certainly we do get some assistance and some good eyes on the ground through that vessel as well. Sometimes we are able to utilise space on it, but there are some capacity constraints around there as well.
Lucy, now your second question, Neville.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Southland's got 4 councils, but 3 of them are based here in Invercargill. And all 3, as I understand it, are looking at maintenance costs or even replacement of the buildings that they're occupying. Or one was certainly looking at a replacement. And, from a taxpayer's point of view, it does seem silly and a waste of taxpayers' money to have 3 councils all having separate premises in Invercargill, where in fact it would be physically possible to have a single premises which could be shared between the councils. I think all it would take is a developer to say, well, I'll buy that vacant H&J Smith's building in the centre of the city and we'll sort it out from there. It seems to me to be, I know that would take some work, but from the point of view of Southland and the people paying rates, then I'm not sure. I pay rates to 3 councils. I'm not sure that I want to keep doing that if we're not going to spend the money wisely and take the opportunity, which I see this is, to join together. What talks have happened around that?
The question is quite timely. I've had an email in the last 48 hours from Mayor Clark, which has gone to all the other mayors, wanting an indication by September of the interest of the combined councils. Obviously, we need quite a bit more information, but I suspect we'll have something coming back to us in the next couple of months. So, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, certainly. So, Councillor, yes, I can say that we have got an active project underway to investigate the benefit of doing exactly as you suggest is sensible. We've had a number of meetings with ICC in particular, who are very keen to see the centre of Invercargill developed around that now vacant H&J's building, which is adjacent to their properties. And we have a further meeting with them on Friday on this matter. And so the program's being led by Don Rickety, who's the GM Business Services, and we will be bringing back an update to council on that and to see where our investigations take us.
Thank you, Jim.
Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Really good questions put out there. Shared sites and services. Indeed, we got some really well presented and put together public submissions with those in our LTP work. So I think that you're absolutely right. I think after this long-term plan discussions around this region, coming out of that will be a sense that we have to reorganise ourselves far better than we are now to actually start to face up to the needs of this region and its people. So I suggest that we have a workshop around this and start to get our thinking collected around it. Of course, in our LTP as it stands now, there is one of the key principles is regional leadership that this council has. So do we want to enact that regional leadership and actually start to talk about something that everyone knows to be true, but no one really wants to talk about it? Or are we going to have a bit of courage in this council? Because the reality is that we have a rating relationship with all of Southland and Southland properties and people. We can talk about this. So I'm suggesting that we have a workshop or something along those lines, and I'm just wondering if there's any support for that to happen around this table, Mr. Chairman.
And I think for everybody's LTP discussions, affordability and efficiencies is a live topic. So I've got Lyndall and then John.
Thanks, Chairman. Had it in my brain, now it's gone. So I guess my question would be, how are we considering the staged approach to that potential outcome? And a comment I would add to that is that for me, the opportunity exists in shared services most, rather than shared site specifically. So I guess my question is, within that report that we will get, to what extent will we be looking at shared services as a step through to the broader conversation?
You want to comment on that one, because it's very much a live topic.
Yeah, so shared services is absolutely a live topic between the chief executives. And in fact we meet monthly, which is actually a shared services committee. The desire to look at some aspects of very specific aspects of our work currently is absolutely live. So there are a range of many things that we could be doing in a much more joined up way. The building, of course, needs to meet a cost benefit. So it needs to actually deliver a benefit to the community in terms of cost and feasibility, knowing that we of course own this building and this campus here. So it's important that whatever decision we make, as much as it may seem sensible to join together, that it is actually beneficial to the ratepayers. And the same for shared services, that, you know, sometimes in the establishment of shared services, you end up actually spending more money than you do to actually gain the benefit of them. So all of those matters go through feasibility studies, and they are all active matters for management right now.
John, then Peter.
My question is, what is the scope of this? Are we going to go further than just councils? Are we going to look at other Crown agencies teaming up with us so that it's a one-stop shop for our ratepayers? I see absolute value in everyone being under the one roof. Agencies can then walk down the hallways to sort out issues rather than going through chains of bureaucracy at times, which tends to slow us down. So I see absolute value in us joining up, but I would like to go further than just councils, to be honest.
And I think that's a live topic too.
Yeah, so that's a good point. In fact, when we first thought about how we might look at shared accommodation, the central government agencies were in town looking at accommodation also, and so they were actually our first port of call for conversation. I'm uncertain now actually that, you know, what the future for the central government agencies footprints and the regions might be, given the change in government employment numbers. So yes, we are absolutely open to shared accommodation where that is the most sensible. The potential for shared accommodation with councils is not the only solution that we're looking at. So we're looking at accommodation solutions that actually are the most cost effective for this council across a wide range of scenarios. Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I know I've had this second bite here, but I think we just need to clarify what is governance around this topic that we're talking and what is management. I think there has to be a governance component to it. And I would like, if you could, I'm concerned about this subject goes around the table and ends here at this meeting and we forget about it. I would like, if possibly you could get an indication around the table that we would like to take this to a workshop for full discussion, please, if you could, Mr. Chairman.
Right, I think you might be preempting the discussion. Obviously, if the building idea goes ahead, it'll have to come back to all councils. So I think probably we need a bit more detail. I think we can guarantee we'll actually get that.
Well, individually, could you indicate whether that's a path we want to go down and start to discuss?
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair? Because I think that council's actually raising kind of two different points. One is that there's a broader conversation, I think, for council to discuss what its regional leadership functions might be as a regional government. Is that, do I understand?
Oh, absolutely. It's in there for a reason.
Yeah, and I think that nothing precludes a conversation about those matters at a workshop. That's an absolutely critical workshop to have. And of course, on the specific matters of anything to do with large capital investment or a change in our circumstances, nothing would be done until we actually have conversations with councillors, but we need to bring you feasibility studies back. So I think they're two separate things, Chair. I think that we can easily schedule the regional leadership conversation workshop for you like really quickly.
Okay, so that's going to happen, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I think we've just had an indication. I think everybody's the conversation.
Oh, well, I see discussions die with meetings and that's it, and they don't pick up again. So this is just really current. It's right in our faces at the moment. We understand. We're feeling the pressure from the community and some really good questions at council.
Well, I'm happy to make a recommendation from the chair that we have a workshop on that topic. Thank you. Second for that? Peter, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right, few questions, Chairman and Councillors' reports. We've got a list of the activities I've been involved with. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I had a very productive meeting with Minister Hogarth in Wellington on Monday regarding flexibility to farm plans, and we'll wait with interest to see what the where that lands. Does anybody have any questions for any of the meetings I have attended in the last meeting? If not, I'll call for, and we have report from Councillor Rodway. Do you want to speak to your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume everybody's read this. I have, been impressed by what Ian Fuller has been doing in this region, and his talk was certainly very enlightening, and those that were able to click on that link and have a look at it would, I'm sure, agree. So again, I'm thinking, that maybe we could, and maybe there is already in the pipeline a workshop where Ian and others can enlighten all of us. I know there's a lot of work going on at the staff level, the Gravel Working Group, for example, as well, and some other stakeholders. But we haven't had a meeting where we can see what the thinking is and where this might lead us to. On our regional climate change meeting the other day, we had an excellent presentation from Ella Norton and Joe, whose surname I can't remember. Patterson. Joe Patterson, I think. Patterson, on a similar topic, and this is very enlightening. And also, I think if there was to be something along those lines, then a view from Fish and Game should also be included. Fish and Game gets a lot of criticism for its role, but it has a statutory role to protect its interests, so it's not something that can be ignored. So, Mr. Chairman, what I'm hoping and asking for is that we do have a time when these people can present the information to us as part of the Slow the Flow project and those sorts of things that are going on.
No, I think that's a good idea, Morris, and that certainly came through in the LTP submission process that there is considerable interest in that sort of work. So we may well be able to have a broadly based workshop where all stakeholders could be invited.
Can I ask the staff whether that's a possibility at some stage or whether it's partially being planned anyway?
Well, would you like to?
I think who's best placed to answer Morris's question on that one, actually. Bruce? No?
Welcome, Pat Bruce. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I probably really can't answer this, but certainly aware of the issue that's being raised, and I'm not sure whether Randall, as kitchen operations manager, has anything planned in that respect, but Al is working within his team, so I can certainly take that request back and see if we can coordinate a workshop it would certainly make some sense if that was going to happen to have Fish and Game presence, and also obviously Tamarama and Hokanui would probably also have an interest.
And I think
I'll
a
take that
lot of other
request.
stakeholders have got an interest in this too, which would be great. Robert?
Could you, just on that point, Mr. Chairman, what other stakeholders are you referring to?
Well, we had a number that made comments during our submission process, obviously Federated Farmers, the Runanga, all those groups that would have an interest in water.
It seems like it's going to be rather a large workshop.
Well,
Is
yeah,
that a workshop?
we've had them before, and there was a bit of misconceptions out there too. I think actually putting the information on the table and everybody who wants to be able to hear it, I think would, most people react well to solid information, and
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Bruce. That would be great.
Really, Mr. Chairman, obviously another entity with a strong interest in this would be the Department of Conservation.
Yes. No, thank you for that, Bruce. Okay, have we got any verbal reports this morning? Not we'll. Yeah.
Yep. Alistair and I, we did go to a government woolshed meeting, one of them in Five Rivers at Southeast Property. It was good to hear Mark and Minister Patterson and MP Joseph Mooney there. And it was a good discussion. It was actually revolved around a lot around wool, to be honest, what's happening around in the wool industry in a sheep farm. But there was certainly still talk, and Alistair and I were certainly able to, there were a few questions around rules, regulations and things, and that was good to be able to sort of still indicate there were rules there and around a water and land plan. And then certainly Minister Patterson certainly indicated that, that he said, yes, there are rules there too. So it wasn't just to sort of clarify what's actually going on in our province. Is hugely important to reach out to the farming community at the moment. So it was good.
And it was interesting that we had to swing it back to water and land plan and grazing. There didn't seem to be too much interest in that within the group that was here.
Right. And we've just, I guess, good report on Minister Patterson's visit, and we're talking down to Said Street. Even I was quite impressed with the construction, and with Kanawa, who I think meal that night, and I made the point that Southland's pretty joined up, and we get on to do stuff. So hopefully that lands well with future government funding. Right, we'll move now to item 10.1, which is Wilma's report, and I'll just ask Wilma to speak to it, but Lyndall made a good suggestion earlier that perhaps we break up our questions into sections, because these reports are quite long, so that we actually deal with the first couple of pages first, sort of thing. And so, Wilma, would you like to speak to your report?
Sure. The report covers a period in which we've been very busy with, of course, the long-term plan, and that's been a dominant part of the organisation's business in the last few weeks, with the submissions closing on the 13th of May, which we extended the submissions period by a week on request. And we received a record number of submissions, 329 in fact, and we spent much of last week in hearings with those who wanted to come and present their submissions publicly, and have heard a wide range of views on a variety of matters that we're focused primarily, of course, on budget-related matters, the impact of the rating review, but also the interest of the community for council to support programs such as return of passenger rail to Southland, and also a focus on covering the loss of funding from central government around Wilding Pines and other pest management programs, among other matters. As while the long-term plan process has been going, also the government reform process has been continuing, which had included in the House, the fast track approvals bill being presented, we made a submission on that bill and we were asked in the ballot, we're successful in the ballot to actually present to the select committee, which the chairman, myself and the general manager, policy and government reform, actually we're part of that. We had 10 minutes in which we made our points. The select committee does post those Zoom-based meetings online, but I haven't noticed that that particular day has gone up online yet, so I could not include the link to that in this report. There's also a number of other processes underway currently, including our own processes around the transport planning. And I'm just thinking this is, you're wanting to break this up into a variety of sections, but perhaps I might take 2 or 3 together. So perhaps the policy and government reform group and the strategy group's work, which traverses those matters, including our science reporting, might be. What would you like to comment on first?
Right, thank you. And I couldn't find it online either, but that's the first time we were pulled out of the ballot, and 10 minutes goes quite quickly, but I think we made pretty good use of our time. They were obviously listening. We did have a question on the sunset clause that obviously 1 or 2 other submitters had also included, but yes, we must be that special. We aren't publicly online yet, but it was, I think we did a good team tag for the 10 minutes we had.
Yeah.
But questions for those first couple of pages of regional planning or any questions?
Quite a bit of science information in this, and there's also reference to the representation review process councillors that are going through, and to the climate change and community resilience consultation, which also was in the long-term plan. So there are no.
I guess, well, obviously it's our water and land plan became operative on 2 days ago, and after a very long process, and obviously we'll get a few questions from the community going forward, and I think we have a publicity program that is in place to actually address some of those issues. If there's no further questions on those couple of pages, so we'll talk about science strategy and engagement, etc.
So councillors, no questions of the science strategy and engagement group. If we move on to integrated catchment management, it's been a busy time. There's quite a lot in this report in terms of updates on programs spanning everything from grants in the Mataura to do work through to the work that's going on the Waghorn Road Bridge and the riparian planting program. Very happy, I can see there are staff here that'll be happy to answer specific questions on any of those projects, including also an update on the work of the Whakamana Te Waituna Trust. The consents team, there are notably in here, apart from the fact that they're well on top of all of their consents processes as usual, that there are fast track consents before us for Contact Energy, and also of course there is the Meridian Energy Manapuri Lake Control Improvement Project consent that's here, and councillors, you went and viewed that area yourselves on your recent field trip. Notably since the last council meeting, you have actually made operative the water and land plan, but there are still appeals in play for sections of that plan which are not yet operative, so there's commentary about those in there as well. Is there anything relating to that or the compliance reports that you would like to talk about? There's quite a bit also in the catchment operations area. There's an update in this report both on the Slow the Flow program and an update on the work that is progressing towards strategic gravel management.
A question from Nicole.
Just a question about the hydrological response on page 44. That first paragraph describing the installation of a climate modelling station in Fiona. Who are we doing that for?
Welcome, Rachel.
Morning for you, Chair. That's our own site that that's not so it's located, as you might recall, TR now, and so, you know, we have an additional climate site going forward with no specific data. We're happy to provide a wee bit more information about that in a future report if you would mind.
I just didn't think that was, core business to, the climate data, that we had other agencies that do that. It's quite expensive to establish something like that. I'm not against it, I just saying, well, we've got other agencies who do that. Are we doing it for them or doing it for us?
So we work very closely with the other agencies, but what I'll do is get the team to provide a little update on that for a future meeting, perhaps the next strategy and policy committee meeting, because that's coming up very shortly. That's agreeable.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any further questions on these topics?
Yes,
Morris.
the next paragraph down, I note that the staff are using LiDAR. Jeremy tells us how wonderful it is, and it truly is, to find out whether or not the storage volumes are the same as what were calculated during the 1990s. And other work is going on in other catchments to do that, to look for potential storage areas that could be used in the future for modification.
Excuse me. You want somebody to respond to? Linda, after that.
Through your chair, a short answer from me would be that it is a little too early for us to look at that. It's being factored into our work programs in terms of where we want to be consolidating information like it and how we want to be making best use of it across all of the catchments. So we're, definitely thinking about that already in terms of how do we prioritise its use and what we want to use it for, and how do we make it as available as it can be so that others can make use of it too.
Excuse me. Linda.
Thanks, Chairman. Hope you okay. Following that, the communication section, page 45 particularly. I'm just wondering how we might see the data collected from participation in some of those consultation programs, and in particular, I'd be really interested in the tracking of the use of the rates calculator. I guess that because it's an online system, it's reasonably easy to spit out a report, but I might be assuming something that's not true. But yeah, I'd be interested in some kind of data on attendance and and the use of the calculator.
So no, thank you for that, because I think that would be very useful. I think it's very straightforward for us to be able to pull off the system, so we should be able to report back to you on that.
Thank you.
Any further questions on that section of the report?
Inconclusive mouse.
Yeah, no, you're
It's good to see that there are no mice on that area.
yes,
Just small rats.
small rats. Yeah.
It's a lot of it.
So we're an
Well,
integrated
but
cash
they-
management team, so the commentary around that, we have Randall is not in the room, but he is online, so if you're wanting to talk to him at all about gravel or slow the flow, but we have staff for the rest of the team here.
Lyndall?
Thanks, Chairman. Sorry, and I'm cringing because I might be admitting a deficit in my own knowledge. There are many. I'm just wondering about the Waihopai catchment project. That I don't, in my own brain, have a handle on what that is. So I'm wondering if somebody could illuminate me. And if it's more appropriate that that's offline, then I'm happy with that. But
No, I think it's.
I'm not entirely sure what that project is.
Through you, Chairman, thank you for the question about the Waihopai project. So in the last regional services update, actually we highlighted that we've done some work obviously in the Waikawa area around starting to create a catchment plan, and this follows on from things like the regional forum recommendations, which saw kind of a real strength in having a catchment planning approach. We have also the opportunity now to do some work in the Waihopai. So we're doing initial work now to kind of scope out that catchment plan process and to have some initial conversations. Beyond that, I'm very happy to come back to the council and perhaps provide an update on the detailed information to do with that Waihopai plan. But certainly that's something that is quietly progressing at this stage.
Just on the Waihopai, a number of years ago now, we did win a major award for the most of the macro over a 10-year period. It was the best improvement for any river in New Zealand that was put into that award. So we mightn't say the Waihopai is perfect by any means. Some of the stuff that's been done over the years, work with farmers in the sandstone catchment, in the out at in Killington, gone from septic tanks, etc. So industrial, there was quite a bit. It was actually quite a neat award, I thought, because it showed improvements in both urban and rural areas, actually making a difference we probably hadn't picked up ourselves. But when you have somebody independent look at the data over a 10-year period, that's quite encouraging. But Peter, you've got a...
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I've just got a question around that. So primarily catchment groups focused on water quality issues in their catchment. Is there an opportunity with the Waihopai to focus on the water catchment, the quality issues, but also floodplain management? We see that's a significant body of water that goes through the city. Can the two be infused together and with those work streams?
So yes, what we know about the Waihopai is it's perhaps a somewhat modest catchment, compared to some of our greater catchments, but there are a range of complex issues, and the interaction between wanting a better outcome for ecosystem health, merged with the fact that we have strong urban areas, we have big industrial areas at Kennington, we have also floodplain management issues, and we're working really closely with catchment operations. So at this stage, we have pulled together an internal team that is cross-organisational, reflecting the need to kind of try and bring together and certainly acknowledge the different kind of needs and expectations for that catchment. What we have learned, I guess, previously too, is there's an internal conversation, but actually how we're working with our community and agencies and organisations in the space is probably the strongest learning we've had. So again, happy to come back with a more formal update, but we have met at this stage with some of the landowners in the catchment, with the catchment group as well, just in the early stage of this conversation. And it is really important, I think, we've had a lot of discussion about how do these sit in terms of council-led, community-led, and what we want to ensure is whatever comes out of this process, the community can see themselves in the information and the work that has been brought together. So this is a non-regulatory document. We want the community to have that sense of ownership in terms of the information that comes out of the catchment plan or that is in the catchment plan, and that actually it's pulled together in a way that they can see their perspectives. And I think we are not having just a conversation with the rural community here. It is the broad range of, particularly industrial, rural and urban, but also, there's community and stakeholders. There's also a conversation too around the values and the importance of the Waihopai to Mana Whenua. So all of that, I have to say, councillors, is very much in the building stage at this stage. And you'll appreciate it's a slightly different proposition to work we've done in the past because of that complexity and the bigger number of people. So, for example, if you were to say to me, are we talking with the community? What I would describe that as being at this stage is targeted engagement as a starting point, because actually we need to be really open about how we're doing it.
Just quickly, just to follow up on that, Fiona, would a slow the flow ethos over that catchment be beneficial to ecology and to floodplain management all in one?
So that's part
just a general.
Yep. So in terms of catchment operations, so the answer is yes. But again, we need to look at what the needs are for the catchment and how you best manage that. So, for example, one of the conversations that we've had to date is, can we, from an information and needs perspective, look at the catchment in sort of sections and there are different needs and expectations of each of the sections of that catchment, and contributing into the mainstream rivers is different types of land uses and soils and kind of topography. So it's that, and it is an integrated approach, both in terms of the subject matter, but also in terms of how we work with the community. I guess the thing I would reinforce is there is technical information that we bring to this conversation, but we cannot lose sight of the importance of working with our community and with Mana Whenua in that space. And so there needs to be kind of the ability to slow down and speed up, depending on where people are at. It can't be us going out and telling a thing, because then it defeats the purpose of engaging with people and having them come up with some actions and some ideas about how to go there. But just, the catchment plan, the purpose of that catchment plan is to bring in our community, to identify some actions, to look at the next steps, because it's never a one, these things aren't kind of a discrete piece of work, they're an ongoing and iterative piece of work.
Thank you, Fiona.
Jeremy.
I'll just go on to winter grazing, which is a great topic to talk about. As our winter, we're having an exceptionally wet day today, and some of these issues come into play. Are we able to, I suppose, in regards to this, I just had another phone call from another farmer that was asking a few questions around the rules and trying to understand. We've got rules that are in play. We've got two sets of rules now. We've got our water and land rules, which we've made operative, and they'll come into play in due course, and we've got government regulation rules, and they're two different sets of rules. Government's obviously indicated that they're going to sort out their end, which is good, and then we can concentrate on our rules. Are we able, and the other thing is, we've got 90 days. The next 90 days are a winter grazing period, so 90 days this problem will disappear. It's just trying to get clarity. Where's our position? Because there's certainly I know we have to look at the government rules because it's law, but the reality is that some of those, there's strong indication that they will change, and then our focus will go onto our water and land plan, which there are rules. So there's no rules. It's still going to be rules, but trying to get the clarity for the next 90 days is what's the council's position going to be, how we're going to deal with that, because effectively you could have people that could be breaking the rules now and going through a compliance issue, and all of a sudden at the end of winter it finishes and there's no rules. I'm just trying to understand, trying to make it clear. We need to be very clear on what our position is. I know I'm very supportive of our water and land plan, 10-year process. We've got a community outcome, but we've got this overriding government. Unfortunately, the last government thought they could thought they had a better idea, and it's confusing things. So I'm just saying, what are we going to do in the next 90 days? That's what I'm asking. Can we put a peg in the sand to tell the community how we're going to deal with this?
Listen, you wanted to come forward.
So through to Chairman, I can comment on the operational aspects, but perhaps that broader picture of implementation of how we're going to work with the different sets of rules.
So in a general way, Chair, I'd just like to introduce that by saying that we're very aware of the fact that when the government puts a bill in front of the House, it takes time for government regulatory change to play out at this stage, because all the indications are that the changes to RMA phase 1 will go to select committee, that it's likely that it'll be after winter that changes to the RMA will take effect, which means that currently the existing rules apply. We also, of course, have the adoption of our own water and land plan, which means our rules also apply, and that we do want to bring clarity to the community about how we will operationalise this situation. And I hear the question that you're asking, which is if government is indicating that consents may not be required for more than 10 degrees, then that's a difficult period across the next 90 days, but the law still exists. So we're looking for, the council is quite seriously looking at how it can actually ensure that it delivers a lawful response, and we want to give that clarity to the community very quickly. Would that be a fair commentary?
Yeah, look, and if I can just comment, so absolutely, exactly, that's exactly right. So, and we have a package of work going on internally around kind of the different teams, so compliance, consents, and also catchment integration and communications to make sure we can actually be very clear, because I think that you make a good point, Councillor McPhail, there is a lot of confusion in our community and we've got some work to do to help allay that. One of the things that has just got underway this morning is we're going to come together with agencies across Southland and have a regular catch up, because, for example, we're conscious that it's very wet this morning. It's been wet for some weeks now, and we suspect that might continue. So, and the purpose of that gathering is actually to ensure that we all have consistent messaging about how we're approaching the work that we're doing.
I would just indicate another question to, by the time we get around to doing that, the winter will be over. And we're, you know, and maybe that'd be great, but the reality is we're still playing with these two rules. And I'm just, I know we can't say, oh, throw the rules out and certain rules out because they're still here. But it's just trying to tell the community that, explain it, the issues that we have. So you have done that.
Look, I think people might be listening to this, but my plea is the farming community have done a fantastic job over the last 2 or 3 years. There are still rules. Continue to do the right thing, regardless of what rule it is, because the community will be watching. So get it right. But any other comment?
Just finally, Chair, I'd just note to be absolutely explicit, this winter, the 2 sets of rules still apply. There's no change to the rules for this winter. People have to comply with both sets of rules, and how we're going to go about that, Bruce could talk more to in terms of the compliance and consenting space that Fiona's already alluded to. But to be very clear, there are 2 sets of rules, and that's what needs to be adhered to for this winter. So beyond this winter, and how we communicate that as we roll through the next few weeks, as Fiona's already said, is in hand, but we need to get very clear. That's what we're operating within for now.
I've got John, then Alistair.
Questions for Randall. It's right to click over to the next slide, or we're still, yep.
And I've still got one to go.
Okay, well, you go first, mate.
Is it unfair to say that we have a list that we receive, all of our rates arrive in the right place, right? So we can communicate because we get paid all our rates. Any comment? Can we put a brochure out to all the farming end of that thing, so then we've got an idea that at least most of the people have received information on both sets of winter grazing and they know what it's all about. So therefore there's no excuses.
Trouble is that's November, it's after winter.
No, we put one out now.
So we have in the past, for example, we have gone out with, what's good practice, what do we want to see, what do we don't want to see, and then where do you go for information on the permitted activities and the resource consent requirements. So there is an opportunity, and we've got different methods. Mail out is one of them, but there are other ways that we can look at in terms of how
if you got your mail out, they get their rates. So therefore, you if anything goes wrong, you can say you were communicating. At the moment, they can say, well, didn't happen.
So I think the answer to your question, Councillor, is yes, it is possible. That's the answer to your question.
We'll go back to John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My questions for Randall and his team, I suppose. It's
Sorry, could I?
Sorry.
David, there's one before we lose the staff. Okay. Sorry, I was just going to observe that the only thing that concerns, I would have thought the communication opportunity now is around planning for winter 2025. And that perhaps in the process of communicating it, being able to draw attention to what is different between winter 2025 and this year is the following. And that in itself might trigger or remind people of their obligations in the remaining months of this winter.
I'd like to say something.
To emphasise that, because I'm imagining people are not going to be transplanting fodder beet at this time of year to a slightly less steep hill.
Nothing changes now.
Kick it out.
Will might like to comment on that.
So just to round this particular conversation off though, councillors, there is a need for us to be explicit to the community about what the proposed changes that are in the RMA Amendment Bill number 1 actually mean for this council's regulations. And so that piece of communication is in development and will be happening. And yes, I agree that next year's communication will be a different matter about the specifics for 2025. But in relation to, is there confusion now, we do want to address that immediately. And the difficult matter of there being this strange interregnum across the next 3 months is a matter that we want to land very, very soon, so we can provide that information in the next few days to the public. So that's where we're at.
Right, we'll go back to John.
Third time's charm.
Hang on a minute, no.
So, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's to Randall. It's around the gravel working group and wanting a bit of clarification on what timeframes they have. We have a bit of an update here, but I guess my question is, when do they expect to get to an agreement as to how we move forward? I guess feeling from the LTP submissions where community doesn't see much happening there. And I'm not saying that, the answer is get the diggers out. I'm saying, at what point do we know what action we're going to take to protect communities and manage our rivers in a way? Because it does feel certainly at the pause button here while this process happens, which I don't think anyone can really say that's the best thing for flood protection.
You will respond, Randall? You're muted.
Randall, I need to get off mute. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair. So the gravel working group is made up of quite a range of stakeholders. So getting them together isn't always easy to facilitate progress as we might desire. But I can confidently say we are making good progress, and the next steps at our next meeting is to go through case study scenarios with the group of interventions and supporting rationale for those interventions. One of the other pieces of work to be done is to use our recently acquired data for the Mataura River and establishing a settlement budget for that catchment, and that will be needed for any consent that we apply for going forward.
Thanks for that, Randall. Morris.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was exactly the same as what Phil's question was, so I don't need to ask it.
Right, any further questions on when was the recomprehensive report?
I'll move the recommendation, Chair.
Moved by Neville, seconded by Lyndall. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Right, we'll move to 10.4, which is Great South Quarterly Update. Welcome, Charlie.
Uber warm today. Just terrified. Yes, John could use the one.
Would you like to take down?
Yes. Good morning and thank you through you, Chair. Really appreciate this opportunity to give a quick update on what Great South has been up to for the last 3 months or so. We're quickly approaching the end of our 2023-24 financial year and the team have been busy. Right, so as the councillors will be aware, Great South and our vision to support even better lives through sustainable regional development. And for the last financial or this current financial year, we've been focusing on 4 different priorities. Regional development leadership, and that's work that came out of the Beyond 2025 Southland long-term plan. Regional promotions, which includes our tourism and events sort of piece. Business support and diversification, which is mostly the government contracts that we hold for regional business partners, Southland Youth Futures, and of late we've engaged with Southland District Council and Gore District Council for the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. And Net Zero Southland and the decarbonisation project is really about the support that we provide to businesses on their decarbonisation journey. So in what we've been really up to over the last 3 months is concentrated on 2 main areas. That is within the regional development leadership piece, where we've spoken about developing a unified data system for our region, and we've named it DISH, Data and Insights Southland Hub. Was a sad day in the creative department, I think, because I wasn't very creative, but I think it will get the message across, and hopefully some visuals when we get the website up and running will explain it a little bit better. But it was a very comprehensive sort of process that we followed. We have had a technical advisory group consisting of mostly council staff from across our region, and that was to set the platform. So this is going to be a multi-year project. The first phase of it is to set up the repository and to set up a website that would give us insights to some dashboards. And the dashboards that we've identified are regional economic and demographic data, the tourism data, housing data, and some climate change information that we have. This, as I said, is over a number of years, so there will be new data sets that come through, and a new way of hopefully holding up-to-date current information and data available to our shareholders and our stakeholders for informed decision-making. This is a quick sort of look of the first page of the website, and those icons on the top can be then clicked through, and then you'll get your up-to-date information. Bobby Brown, who is leading this piece of work, will be connecting and is continuing to connect with council staff to ensure that we have the right information that is needed to support that decision-making process. Right. The next part, and the next big part, I think, of what we've been doing is housing. And through the housing area, again, we've had a Beyond 2025 housing advisory group that has supported us through this implementation phase. We have 5 agreed deliveries, and those are the Regional Housing Action Plan, Housing Supply Program, Housing Data and Insights, which will be available through a regional housing website, which will be linked through DISH, and also support for local government and the councils and their specific initiatives. Bobby took a group of stakeholders up to visit Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust, and there was really good information and insights to form what we are proposing that would work for Murihiku Southland. We also made a presentation to the Kaingaora Review Panel, and we also have had strong indication from Kaingaora to support our region to develop a regional housing action plan. And there's currently a piece of work that Bobby's undertaking with Kaingaora to support this piece. In the last 3 months, we've also conducted a commercial accommodation snapshot. You don't see a lot there, but I'm happy for the slide deck to be shared. And if the councillors would like this particular snapshot to be distributed, I can have that sent through. Right. Moving on, an additional piece of work that we've done is develop the regional opportunities papers. And currently we have 7 opportunities. There's a further paper being developed for space operations. These 7 are for agriculture, aquaculture, and tourism as the main diversification opportunities for our region. and through energy, housing, roading and transport and water to support and enable those diversification opportunities. These are really short, sharp, sort of 2-page documents that we'd developed with the engagement of wider stakeholder, shareholder groups to start as a starting point for discussion with central government on what it is that we want. Chair Nicole mentioned earlier about the visit from Minister Mark Patterson, and we had the opportunity to share these papers with him, and the response back from him and from the accompanying MB staff was that Murihiku Southland is in a very strong position because we have a long-term regional plan that has already been developed, and B, we have opportunities very specific that have been identified, and C, that all of our mayors and our regional council chair were in the same room, acknowledging and addressing these opportunities, but understanding how it affects their specific areas as well. And that messaging has been extremely strong. Message has also been very well received, and the discussions that we had that night have led to further information requests from the Minister's office to champion, our needs and our requirements and our opportunities. Historically, as you will be well aware, Southland is seen as a region that doesn't need help because we just get on and do it, and we're quite rich and we're quite able to do our own thing. But I think some of the conversations that we had with Minister Patterson have renewed understanding that possibly we haven't had our fair share of what we should get. So the advocacy that we're supplying and promoting is to open the platform and provide sound bites to those that are visiting in Wellington so that we have the same sort of narrative going through. The opportunities were then mapped together across Southland to show how these opportunities affect different areas, and that also brings the regional concept and the regional aspect of our opportunities for a discussion opener with central government. Right, through regional promotion, we've had quite a number of activities, campaigns, opportunities again here. Along with Awaroa Runaka, we have been providing support and advocacy to establish a visitors experience up on Bluff Hill. Te Taurapa o Te Waka is the name of the project, and that was presented to ICC, to Invercargill City Council, for their support, and also engaged with the wider stakeholder community. The project is led by Awaroa Runaka, and Great South will provide support if there is resources available. And they're looking at establishing a feasibility plan on how to raise the money for this project. It is an $18 million project, and the opportunity for it to become a project of national significance is quite significant. We've had a lot of promotional campaigns, January to March, towards the end of our summer season. We've had promotional campaigns for cycling, food, outdoor adventures, food particularly, building a showcase of our region alongside the Bluff Oyster Food Festival. We also had a significant campaign run with Air New Zealand, which had a really good sort of outcome, a 75% increase in passenger sales over 4 weeks of monitoring this program, highlighting Southland and flights to Invercargill. We had that ad that's up there in Kia Ora magazine, and that was exposed to 850,000 sort of passengers on that flight. So I've spoken very briefly about the other campaigns that we've had on. So good reach and good impressions and click through to our website, which is what we really want to do. The website that we're driving traffic through to is Southland NZ, and that's where all of our events, the region's events, are posted. Had really good support for our backyard events campaign, which continues on. And of course, some of you may have enjoyed the rumbling sounds of the motorcycles in February when we had the Burt Munro Challenge, and that's one of the major events that Great South support. But now we are in crazy mode because we've got Kids Zone coming up, and the whole office is about how are we going to manage the hundreds of different creative areas for little kids and their families to enjoy over the July summer holidays. Not summer holidays, July winter holidays. I'm in the wrong hemisphere. Sorry about that. Right, so business support and diversification. And a lot of the business support that we do is really along the workforce attraction, retention sort of piece as well. We work with the schools, we work with the youth, we work with trying to open up their eyes to the different opportunities there are. And we put on different sort of events, Girls in Trade, Summer of Work. Recently, we put through this Uniform Services Expo, just establishing that there are so many different opportunities open to our youth now. We, through the Southland Youth Futures Program, we offer what is called a Work Ready Passport. This was a government-funded initiative. It will end December this year. We were able to stretch our resources out to deliver the senior workshop, senior Work Ready Passports through workshops, through schools up until December. So that's another. So when I come back, possibly in September or October, whenever you have me again, I'll probably be able to give you more stats around this. But last year, the Southland Youth Futures reaches close to about 3,000 youth. It has engagement from all of the schools across our region. It has about 150 employers involved that dedicate their time to assist youth with opening up their businesses and identifying what jobs are like. The next piece of work that we've completed and we're very proud of, it's called Get a Life. And it was quite cheeky, and I thought we thought that we would get more of a reaction. We're quite happy with the responses that we have received. So really what we're doing is using this Get a Life sort of tagline to establish why Southland is so great. It is in line with the workforce attraction and retention piece. And we understand the challenges that do come with having additional people in our region. We don't have our houses. Southland doesn't have public transport. There are health care needs, there are educational needs. And so what we have done is establish this as a toolbox for businesses recruiting. And it is not something that we're going to have a lot of money and effort put into to be spread wide and far until we can get better with how we're going to manage an influx of workforce coming through. So what we are proposing to do is, this was only launched last week, and I will show you some of the other sort of collateral around it. As you can see, these are social media tiles. So Get a Life, Get Southland, less of driving in traffic and more in the fresh outdoors. Or I'm sick of all of this fresh air, except no one ever. So Get a Life, Get Southland, because we can offer this. Really, the last one was Now You've Got Time to Wash Your Car. And these are just some of the initial sort of concepts. We have the opportunity to have this campaign run over multi-years, obviously, as we ramp up on our capability to welcome and retain out of region workforce and families and new residents to our region, we will also be able to use it as a driving campaign for possibly SIT that might want to use this for student recruitment, or this will also lead the pathway to what is called the Ambassador Program. The Ambassador Program is establishing a narrative for all of us in Southland to use when we're talking to people about why our place is so significant. What is our history? What is our cultural background? What are the great things around this? And yes, we've got probably bad weather. I mean, it's not looking too bad right now, but it rains a lot. But we are an agricultural sort of province, so we need water, and we need rain, and we need to grow things, and we need to be able to, get about and support our other industries as well. But on the flip side of that, we've got we're in a real unique place, and undertaken international marketing for SIT for many years. The way that we could spin this is quite significant. So it'll be used well. I spoke about business support being those sort of government contracts that we have. So business consultations through the Regional Business Partnership Program. We do like support, one-on-one support for businesses, generic capability building, and then discovery sessions with new businesses or SMEs that may need more individual sort of contact. We've also established a new business newsletter called Beyond Great. Again, creative department is not very creative. No, this was a great, I think it was a great initiative. Beyond Great was a good name. We also continue to partner with the Southland Chamber of Commerce, with COIN, and one of those sort of partnerships was with Tech Week last week, where we had quite a lot of engagement for new technologies. Last slide. Net Zero Southland is really about our decarbonisation support that we provide, as I mentioned before. The Murihiku Southland Energy Strategy has had some final updates and will be published shortly, available to many. We've also conducted decarbonisation workshops with general businesses and also some sustainable tourism workshops with focusing specifically on how to get our tourism operators more in that space. And that's me.
Thanks, Jamie. I've got John, Phil, Neville, and Robert, I think so. John.
Thank you for the presentation. Just interested in the visit to Queenstown and what sort of got taken away from there. I guess my observation between the two would be we have a quality issue rather than a quantity issue, probably the reverse up here.
Correct.
What sort of came away?
So from what the report that was given was really, really complex, more complex here. They've got one council, and therefore, the ability to sort of spearhead different projects is quite much more simpler. Because we have the complexity of 4 councils and the rules are quite could differ from council to council. So to enable private investors to come through or private property developers to come through, we need to streamline or be able to funnel them to the right places. Understanding consenting processes, all of that there's a piece of work that we could do, in which we hope to do through the housing website, and linking through to the different councils and then giving them the right guidance. So making business as easy as possible is one of the key areas. The group also, I think, enabled them to form what would work here, as opposed to, just following a model that might be available. Waikato and Queenstown were the two that were looked at predominantly. So possibly a trust may not work, but that's still being consulted, John. We don't, that piece of work is being done at the moment.
Thank you.
Phil.
Jamie, thank you. The decarbonisation workshops, what type of businesses or organisations have been showing interest in that? Do you have any sense, are they big, medium, small, particular sector focused, or?
It's been across the board. So we've had the likes of PowerNet or HW Richardson and, the bigger businesses come through as well. There's a lot of work that we're doing with the likes of, let's say, Fonterra with their boiler conversions. So it is a little bit multi-pronged, but for the workshops, it has been quite wide-ranging. Small business enterprises through construction companies, sort of owner-operator businesses as well. It's been really wide.
Would there be potential to tailor one for a rural audience?
Absolutely.
I'll just make a suggestion that you review that picture of the vehicle driving through the water.
Absolutely, I've had
We
that.
tend to discourage people driving through rivers and through the Tamarama beds.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be used. We can, like I said, they're just like some ideas that
We're
have
not
come through.
encouraging.
Yeah.
Robert, thank you for that. My question's about supercharged aquaculture proposals, and I'm wondering if you've got an equivalent proposal for growing food for the fish, given that there's a big issue about where fish food comes from. Either it's hauled out of the ocean as tiny fish, and that's fairly rapacious, or it's imported often in the form of genetically engineered soy or whatever. Do you know about this? Is there something proposed on land here which might complement those plans?
So we have had some initial discussions with Skretting that produce or supply most of the feed to the aquaculture industry in New Zealand. They've indicated that they're quite, they would progress further discussions if the volume of aquaculture was right. And we're understanding from the fast track processes and some of the applications that may be going through is that we may be able to get that volume needed, and therefore they would look at Southland as one of the preferred areas. We've also spoken to them about their plant-based protein research that they've been doing for fish feed, and that how suitable Southland would be to support an industry in that. So it's in very initial stages at the moment, and it does depend on the number of sort of opportunities that get through the fast track process or the consenting process. But the discussions.
Sorry, I missed the name of the.
Skretting.
How do you spell that?
Skretting, I believe.
And where are they and what are they producing?
So they're an international company. The feed that comes to Southland is from Tasmania, and currently they ship it over through to Bluff, and then from there it gets transported mainly up to Nelson Marlborough for.
Is that a grain?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
I think partially it might have a bit of a mixture with.
It's a sorry.
All right, thank you.
Peter.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Charlie. Very good. I love to get alive. I reckon that's great promotion. Well, I'm just going to ask you a question, and I have topics of the day, and I'm on a topic today. You can probably tell it's around this. So, look, I know this is under regional opportunities. I know the Hawke's Bay Regional Development Entity up there have a governance group that's sitting there around a previous question in this meeting around shared services. And they manage that discussion on behalf of all the entities, on behalf of all their shareholders, all the councils up in that area. There's a lot more councils up there than there is here. So that's the context of the question. Could you see if you're instructed as Great South to manage and facilitate the same discussion if asked? Would that be possible?
Absolutely. I think there's been some thought processes around shared services already. there was a bit of a discussion at the Joint Shareholders Committee on Friday around what are those opportunities could be. Actually, Wilma is the one who indicated that to me a while ago, and just looking at what that could be, but absolutely open to what, as a council controlled organisation, we're open to whatever our shareholders want us to do, and we can facilitate that and look into that.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in this morning, Shami, and this is probably a slightly longer version than we had for Minister Patterson, but I thought it was a very good presentation. It does show government and these organisations that Southland is proactive, that we do have a plan for the future, and pick us. We're pushing quite hard, so thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Somebody like to move the recommendation? Moved by John, seconded by Jeremy. All in favour say aye. Aye. Okay, we will move to 10.3, which is reporting of expenditure incurred above delegated authority.
This item is required to note the payment of the Linton Contracting Limited's claim 17 for $306,238.54. Council's delegation manual provides for the General Manager and Chief Executive to sign off payments up to a sum of 300,000, and anything over and above that must be reported to Council, must also be included in the work programme and be in budget, both of which this matter was.
I'll move the recommendation, Chairman. It was previously in the programme and the budget.
Moved by Neville, seconded by Alistair.
Oh, you said no?
Yeah.
Is it budgeted?
Yes, yes.
Good. That's all I want to know. Yeah, and I will see.
So just for clarity, councillors, this is the payments relating to the Wind and Stop Bank Climate Resilience Project. It's budgeted and it's within the budget.
No further questions? Been moved and seconded. I'll put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Right, we'll move to 10.4, attendance at LGNZ conference and pre-conference. So this is later this year. It's the conference itself is in Wellington from the 21st to the 23rd of August. But doesn't say exactly, but the pre-conference I think starts in Napier, and I'm assuming it would almost be a Sunday night arrival.
Yes, it is a Sunday night arrival.
So I'm
from the 19th to the 21st.
really not knowing it was going to be now. We've actually got a show my wife and I are going to on the Thursday night. I'm not sure I'll do the full conference. It's a long time, but I'll do some of it. But I probably want some indications of people who might want to go. Jeremy, you might have.
Yeah, I'll hand up. Tag him.
Chairman, I'm interested in going to the conference, not necessarily the tour prime of this room, but I'm also aware that there might be new councillors who would participate.
John?
Interested in the pre-conference, not the conference.
Look, I have to say, from a regional council perspective, the pre-conferences are probably more valuable than the whole conference, which is more territorial based. So, yeah.
I'm keen if we have a bit of a, put the names up and shoot them down. Pick which ones you want.
Peter?
I just want to make a comment on just what you've said, Mr. Chairman, about the relevancy of the regional council and how much dominated is it by territorial matters. Is it still relevant to us as a regional sector to go?
You know, you get some inspirational speakers, but I find it is very much territorial.
Sorry, Chairman, throwing my pencil at people. Just part of the interest for me is that this is a new approach to a conference, as far as I'm aware, is from LGNZ with the new personnel in there. So I'm interested to see whether it's quite as TA focused as it has been in the past. But valid comment.
I was just going to observe in response to your question, having attended last year's one, as a new councillor, I found it really helpful to help with understanding, sense making, education, professional development around where does the regional council sector sit within the local government system, it was kind of really helpful from that point of view. So I mean, from a new council's point of view, it was very, I found a lot of value in it.
So, thank you, Chair. I know it was a cost of $1,395 per person. That's plus travel and accommodation. Your budget provides for the attendance of 2 councillors and chief executive. Do we need 2 councillors and chief executive or just 1?
I think in the past we've gone with 2 and sometimes 3, and I guess we'll put the names up and the regional, particularly, because we're all dealing with the same issues. I really have found this quite useful at times, the conversations you have, and I'm not sure if there'll be a sector meeting at some stage. I'm not sure if we know exactly when that's going to be at this stage. Which was
In the program, I haven't dug into the program.
Secondary, on top of that, it would be good to have people attend the whole event because of the cost, due to the fact that last sector meeting I went to, there was some that attended portions of it, flew up for portions of it. So it would be good to have members that attend the whole event, I feel.
I'll be there for the whole. Are you intending to be any of it?
I'll be for some of it. I may go home. I'm in, at this stage I'll say whole conference, but I may, if we book it, I may not do it.
There's 2 parts to this, a pre-conference tour and I'm happy to stand and do the whole show.
I can only do half. I've got 1,200 cows sort themselves out about then, so 3 days is enough for me.
The reason I said that was because I attended the regional one and I was at the whole event. And there was quite a lot of information that I got from the whole event that others that attended part of it didn't receive.
So we have some clarification, Chairman, on who actually wants to go.
Right. Yeah. So it's like Jeremy's put his hand up for the whole conference. We've got John who's indicating he'd like to go for the pre-tour. And we've got Alistair saying whole conference. And
excluding the pre-tour.
And
Linda. And I have free accommodation up there, so if that helps.
You've got 3 at-a-time people.
And because we'll have to change them, but because I've already got tickets booked for the wife and myself, they'll have to be changed because the line. So there'll be some saving. How many people have we got on?
We've got a combined 1 person between John and I.
He's the front, wasn't he? Alistair and I did.
A combined 1 person.
And then whatever.
Alistair and Jeremy.
All of those people to go, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
Right.
No, I was going to say the same. So look, move by Morris. I'll second it too. So there'll be, I think there'll be some savings to be made. Linda and I with accommodation and flights. So I think we can realistically do that and give people the opportunity and probably saves a little bit of money. Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just want to put it out there. I was considering going to the EDS conference in June in Christchurch. Their focus was on Indigenous biodiversity and climate change this year. Usually very high calibre of speakers and attendees from councils around the country. I went to one 2 years ago and found enormous benefit. So I'm not going because I felt it was too expensive. But I would think just to look outside the square a wee bit of those opportunities could be good for the future. It's not something that we need, the environmental defence to society. It's not something we normally gravitate towards. But looking apart from them, looking at the event that they put on is pretty high quality. So I'm just saying for the future, maybe we look a bit further afield.
And look, we put off making a decision on that a couple of months ago. And we're going to
Yeah,
come
I
back
was
to it.
just going to say, Chairman, item 10.7 on the agenda actually is the conversation that we started a while ago, Councillor, and we just haven't got to the end of it. So it's definitely, because there are a number of things that professional development opportunities for all of us that might be better suited. I mean, who knows? We've got a thing yet.
Just to emphasise, I think, knowing that there's a number of people potentially attending this next conference, with the change in government and I guess if you like a greater emphasis on localism, I would expect that this coming conference will be a great opportunity to understand how that's playing out in the different territories and regions of New Zealand, and for the team to bring back a set of insights around those different opportunities to promote or pursue localism, given the government's, the new government's stance on pulling back from some centralised.
So we have a motion, Chairman, I don't see any opposition, but the people who indicated interest in going should go.
Well, it's been moved, it's been moved and seconded, so. So we'll put the motion, all in favour of that motion, and then those people, say aye. Aye. Against? No, carried. Right, we'll move to 10.5, which is councillors' meeting schedule.
The amendments I have to the meeting schedule include the meeting that the Chairman and Chief Executive attended with Minister Hoggard moved from the 23rd of May to the 27th of May at 4 o'clock. And that there is a council workshop being added into today's schedule. And that deliberations on the LTP via formal meeting will occur on the 5th of June from 10 o'clock and on the 10th of June from 9 o'clock. Anything else?
Any advances or corrections to the meeting?
One moment. And the meeting of the Regional Services Committee with the chairs of the catchment liaison committees has moved from scheduled for last week. It's moved to the 20th of June at 1:30.
Can I just invite people down to the Tumbleweed Country tonight at 7 o'clock? We've got our meeting there where they're going to come out with all the changes in our irrigation consents and things like that from Environment South.
Too much water up there.
Yeah, there's too much.
Quite a lot. Damn, I'd say at the moment.
I think you were coming, weren't you, Jeremy?
Yes, I am attending that.
Look, you put an apology for me, but I think we're getting to the end of quite a long process and we appear to have good outcomes. So fingers crossed that that'll happen tonight.
Just
So,
to clarify, we did go to the government meeting. What term there's a meeting. I don't know, like, it was certainly probably quite important for us to bring the council views there, but I'm just, I don't know. Don't worry about it, like, I think reasonably, yeah, but we're involved in the meeting. I'm just,
I think we need to record it, that we were there.
give Jan the dates and.
Yeah, 17th of May.
That was really good that both you and Al and Jeremy were there to answer some questions. Nick,
yep.
Can I just confirm that the meeting on the 12th with the council and Tammy workshop with water and land is confirmed?
The coastal payment.
No, it moved.
There's a coastal payment session in the morning and a
Yes.
separate one in the afternoon on water and land.
Yes, that's in there, that's confirmed.
It's on the 12th. Thank you.
No, I just want to say the meeting that the chairman attended with the regional sector chief executives, do you want to record those in these notes? So that was the 13th of May.
It can be recorded, but obviously I don't claim it for.
13th of May is, it's just depending on what you want to record.
Sorry, what's another one? Their regional transport meetings.
Are they not?
No, it's just. Yeah, no, well, that's the thing, it just comes from Otago, but it's tied up on Friday and next Tuesday.
It's a rather tire meeting, isn't it?
James, looking at you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm muttering to myself, Jen, sorry. The Te Raupu Taiao meetings, there's not been one for a while.
There hasn't been one for a while.
There's one coming up, I think.
Yes, I don't know if it's June or July, I'm not sure.
It's not on here though, is it? Is it in here?
No.
No, it's not being
We don't have a venue.
It's not being confirmed.
Oh, okay. Yes. Keep an eye on that.
I've had a conversation about those non-standard meetings in the past. I think Robert attended something and I think last time you went to the EDS, we did a partial payment. And we put off the debate last time to have a bit more of a think about it. So it's, the ones where we're representing council are pretty straightforward, but the conversation was about, I think it's frequency or for people's development or whatever, as to what our policy should be.
So there is an item.
Mr. Chairman, I had a look at that and the conferences in the new Christchurch Convention Centre and it seemed quite pricey to me and the air flight, so I just made a decision. I was happy to co-fund it, but I just made a decision because under circumstances it's too expensive.
So, Mr. Chair, there is an item after next in which you can discuss this.
Okay.
You've got a council item first and then.
All good, so could we have a motion for?
Second.
Move Jimmy, seconded.
Yes.
All in favour, say aye. We move to 10.6, which is the cold seal. Seconded by John. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Oh, now we.
10.7 is the measure.
10.7, and then we'll do the supplementary. Okay. 10.7 is ongoing matters.
It's just recording that this policy item will be reported back to council. We had hoped it would be here for this meeting, but unfortunately with the resignation of Democracy Services person, it's just caused a bit of a delay. But any comments from today's meeting will help feed into that as well.
I can make a comment. It says council, a policy on councillor training and attendance and conferences meeting. Could that be training in the wider context? You know, we have a council here and it's been brought up for about extension and training for councillors. I know last term I inquired on training for a chair's role, for a committee chair's role, and there was the ICC were running a program, but of course you had to already be a chair to attend the program, which so is there anything that can further our skills, you know, beyond what we are now, but you know, potentially into the future? Is there any opportunities we can take there?
That's entirely the opportunity, I think, that the policy presents itself. So happy to engage with you. Happy to get that feedback. You know, we'll be bringing the policy here to for you to consider. So absolutely.
What about outside of the local government environment into like the Institute of Directors, that sort of thing? Is that appropriate, possible?
Oh, I think that's a conversation to be had. You know, fundamentally, you're looking at the benefit for the training in order to be able to deliver your role here on behalf of council. So I think it'll be a conversation to work out what's best in the context of the policy. Yeah. So.
And I think probably at the end of the conversation we might have a report come back on. We've got to look at cost. We've got to look about frequency, but I think you know there is an ability to come up with something that's reasonably clear. Linda, would you like to?
I'm just somewhat facetiously also going to add in the opportunities for women in leadership training that some of you may not be aware of.
Any further comments? What I'm hearing around the room is I think we probably want a report to come back that we can flesh this out. I mean, our finance in this area is not unlimited, but I think we need to be able to have a framework to have that conversation.
Yeah, agreed. But it's just a kind of, yeah, there will be a cost, but I think we shouldn't really put a monetary value against the quality of governance of this council. So just, yeah, it's a serious investment.
Yeah,
which is fine, but there are budgets for this sort of thing that we would need to approve. But I think that's a good conversation to come back and have that structured conversation. Okay, somebody like to move the recommendation that we note one of the items that's moved by Lyndall, seconded by Peter. All in favour say aye. Aye. Right, we will now go to the supplementary report. With regard to the submission on to the Climate Change Commission. Lucy, do you want to speak to the?
Mr. Chair, the paper is read, and thank you for I've got Marcus is in the wings if we need him because his team's been in the detail on this, but broadly it was to give council an opportunity to provide any further feedback to staff for us to take through to the submission deadline, which is Friday this week. We have gathered, we put it in your newsletter last week, so if anybody had a chance to have a look at the document, to provide any feedback in advance. We also know that a number of you were able to attend the event in Gore, and so what's currently within the paper articulates some of those things that the council always had individually identified as priorities for the submission. So this is really just an opportunity for yourselves to provide any further thoughts or feedback that you would like the staff to feed into the submission. And I'm going to be trying to take notes whilst you're talking.
Phil.
I think one of the areas of consultation was on whether New Zealand should be including international shipping and aviation in the emissions targets, and I'm not sure if our submission addressed that particular topic. And when I read into it, it occurred to me that possibly it is a prudent idea to include it. I would expect that the two, or it had 6 ways of including it for New Zealand, and I think they recommended that there was a combination of 2 to come up with a hybrid approach was sensible and practical, and that seemed to make a lot of sense to me, what they've suggested. And I guess there's a sense that could add extra costs for exporting and importing, if depending on how you think about that. But the other potential is that other countries, developed countries who are including international shipping and aviation, could potentially use this as another form of trade barrier for international trade in the future if New Zealand's not seen to be really taking an integrated approach to emissions tracking. Suggesting that it's probably useful to consider it, but others may have a different opinion on that one.
Can you just make a point of clarification, and I'm just looking at this as well. Difficulty with the very short timeframes councillors with which we're given to respond for submissions to a variety of matters is that if we have not actually had a chance as a council and you as the authorising environment to decide on a policy matter, it makes it very difficult with council to actually make commentary to the select committees on matters that you haven't actually thought through, considered, and then agreed a policy on. So the commentary that's here from staff are those matters which we do feel that we have direction on. And I hear Councillor Morrison's commentary here, but these are matters which you've not had a chance to discuss, for which we've not been able to bring you any analysis, economic, environmental, social, cultural. So I would suggest that while this is may narrow the breadth of submission, we need to make sure that it actually is, because you do need to give us direction, that it is actually within the scope of known council position.
Morris.
Yes, that is a good point. About the submission was fairly high level, perhaps a little bit vague. I'm not sure if the comment that monoculture exotic forestry results in adverse outcomes for biodiversity is accurate.
So does farming.
Certainly not when it's compared to pasture, but compared to indigenous forestry, that would be true. So I'm not sure if that's something that we all agree on. But other than that, I did think that it was, really very definitive on anything. It was quite a, what was it, say, negative is not quite right, but he didn't really say, you know, this is what we think should happen. I think it could be strengthened in that area. There are some like clear statement agreement to the strengthening climate change targets and budgets. That's fine. But otherwise, when you look through it, I thought it was a bit unsure as what it was saying. I'm sorry, that sounds a bit vague as well. I take Wilma's point that we can really only comment on something that we actually agree to as a council, and I'm not sure if we really, other than what we've done through the regional climate change working group, which has got a strategy, and maybe we should refer to that. But all the councils in the region have agreed with it. Maybe we should look at that and pull things out of that could be helpful. I'm not sure what you think about it.
I think there's been, quite specific questions from the Climate Change Commission, which are traversing matters that we haven't really had a deep dive into. So I guess it's about the utility of submitting and the extent to which our submission could be the sharing of that, currently drafted for, returning from consultation strategy, but I don't know whether it answers the specific questions that the Climate Change Commission have actually asked us.
Through you, Chair, the Commission's seeking specific feedback on specific matters, and as Wilma has alluded to, the strategy doesn't really touch on some of those in great detail. And as Wilma's also mentioned, one of the struggles that we have is the timeframes around some of these things and the vast array of requests we're getting from multiple places for us to respond to submissions, and the timing that takes both the staff to assess whether or not they're significant or worth responding to, but also then to actually pull responses together that are across the organisation and across yourselves as well. So I'm happy for us to make it less vague, of course, and we can share where we've gotten to with the strategy. I think that would be helpful for them to know we've been working on a thing. One of the other options is that we include reference to the fact that we're doing quite a bit of work down here on this topic, and we would be keen to talk to the Commission. I know that the chair is and a couple of members of the board, I believe, are changing, so that might be a good timely offer as well, Chair, if that was something.
This is not the last time we're going to be able to comment on this. There's parliamentary group are trying to come up with a consensus, which is a really good thing, so that there'll be more opportunities. But I've got Robert, then I've got Peter.
Thank you. I also wanted to quibble about that particular sentence, which might seem trite, but this is a recurring theme about exotic forestry, bad-mouthing exotic forestry as a matter of course. The statement that monoculture exotic forestry results in adverse outcomes for biodiversity is just not true. And that's an example of, I think, of what Morris was indicating, that we have to be careful what we say if we haven't actually agreed to that as a council. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see that particular idea extinguished, unless people want to debate it, and I'm happy.
Well, I would debate that, but I've got Peter next.
Good. I look forward to that.
I don't really know what we're discussing. I haven't seen a paper in front of me. I was there in the room earlier on. But is this a submission to the Climate Change Commission? Okay. Are you taking some notes on what people would say? I would say primarily our interest should be around land use change. And what we're seeing is a flaw in the ETS, where the level of profitability from farming and level of profitability in the top 50 emitters is the gap is just so large. So if we see a unit price sitting at $75, that's enough to trigger widespread land use change, potentially, but it's not enough to stop the emitters' current behaviours. So there is a no man's land sitting right in the middle of that scheme that we've just been sitting in, and it's just, that's where we sit. So there has to be some sort of reform around that mechanism to address that.
Myself, then Phil, well, just on the forestry one, it's not anti-forestry, but we do know that if there's no rules, do we want all our Tassa country being planted? We know the issue we've got with wildlings at the moment. They are affecting biodiversity. So I think the point is valid. It's not anti. I don't take it as being anti. It's just the conversations we've had in this room in the past is actually the right tree in the right place.
You could say the same thing about stock farming, though, Nicole. On a far greater extent, stock farming has destroyed biodiversity right across the country. But it's like it's an invisible concept for a farmer, I would suggest. Whereas here you're focusing on another land use, but constantly mentioning it without allowing anybody like myself to say, what about sheep farming? Look what's disappeared as a result of farming sheep. I mean, I'm not being critical. I'm just of farming. I'm just saying you can't see what I mean, essentially. So that's why I would like to see that kind of statement not included, unless you would like the counter in there as well.
Everything has an impact.
Phil.
Just perhaps in the interest to narrow the debate, because I think it's cascading beyond what is asked for in this consultation there. They're looking at the targets for 2050, the budgets that would potentially lead us there, and including international shipping and aviation. So if you like, this is talking about how we're measuring where we get to with emissions. The question of how we get there is totally not related to this. That's a subject for other agencies to consider at a central and regional and local level. So I think we can safely exclude some of this discussion around forestry versus that sort of stuff from the setting of emissions targets in this particular consultation topic.
I agree. Can I just say that I agree with you in your earlier comments around shipping and aviation to be included. Do you put agriculture in with that? Because they're the three hard to mitigate sectors in our economy. They usually go together, don't they? So a carve out still for agriculture, but include the transportation sectors.
So through you, Chair, specifically the Commission are asking for whether or not emissions from those two industries, those international shipping and aviation, should be included as part of the 2050 target, because currently they're
not asking about agriculture.
No.
Okay.
So the question I have is that as much as, we can make some reasonably, as you point out, generous comments in this, it reflects the fact that we've not had a detailed conversation around those very specific policy areas at all as a council. There is no harm in us not submitting to the Parliamentary Commissioner. However, it is an opportunity for us to do as was suggested, which is to advise their office that while we don't have a policy position on these matters, we are actually very active in this development in this space, and that we would quite like to meet with them in order to, discuss a variety of matters. But perhaps, I think, Lucy, we might not actually have a council enough specific policy in this particular area, but a more general offer to them to meet, I think, might be helpful. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. And I think we were disappointed there was only one meeting in Southland, and that we are interested in this topic. So I think, yeah.
There's evidence by the work we're doing here. Need to do it.
Well, the recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is that we do make a submission. Wilma, are you saying that we?
Well, I think we can still submit, but the question is whether you want to submit by having a view that you haven't discussed or agreed at this table on the specific questions, is that the submission is a much more general commentary and maybe raises the fact that, yes, we appreciated the briefing, but no, we haven't got a specific view on these matters, but yes, we would like to meet with the Commission and talk about the broader issues with them. That may be the tenor of the submission. Let's just see if that fits with your thinking.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yes, I'll move that then, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Lawrence, seconded by Lyndall. Oh, you voted. All good. All votes say aye. Aye, right. That will conclude the public part of the meeting. No, that's move offline, we then move to, oh, yes, Jen, give us the reasons why we need to go into public excluded.
Public excluded to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council of the 17th of April and the extraordinary meeting of council of the 8th of May, and to adopt the resolutions from the public excluded sections of the Southland Civil Defence Emergency Management Group meeting of the 3rd of May, Regional Services Committee meeting of the 8th of May, and Finance and Performance Committee meeting of the 23rd of May.
So you heard the reasons, would somebody like to move to public excluded? Moved by Jeremy, seconded by Alistair, all in favour say aye. Aye.